Hi, I'm Graeme, Chief Exec of SCMA. I wanted to record an important update for you about an issue which appears to have become distorted on the social media overnight. This relates to the Scottish Government's new Transitional Support Fund and also what further financial support there may be for childminders. So please take a few minutes to watch and listen to this short video. Before clarifying our understanding of the position, I also wanted to briefly note that members will by now be aware that the latest childminding guidance published by the Scottish Government last Thursday confirmed that restrictions on blended care will be lifted from the 10th of August to coincide with the schools going back. Importantly, blended care will be allowed, and childminders will also be allowed to drop off and pick up at nurseries and schools. This is great news for childminders, for parents and for children. As you'll be aware, SCMA has put a huge amount of effort into raising awareness of the importance of this to your businesses and to the families you support. I'll also be contributing this evening to an online webinar about this with colleagues in the Scottish Government and the Care Inspectorate. I hope that some of you will be able to link into that event. Moving on, I wanted to clarify as best I can our understanding of the position regarding funding for childminders. If we wind back a couple of months to when we were all in lockdown, within SCMA we were aware that many childminders were under severe financial pressure. And while some sources of funding had come through and were welcome, such as the Chancellor's Self-Employed Income Support Scheme and the Scottish Government's newly Self-Employed Hardship Fund, some childminders were not eligible for different sources of funding for different reasons, and there was a risk of them falling through the cracks. So in addition to urging the Scottish and UK governments to support childminders financially, we also wanted to do something ourselves to help if we could. Now, as a charity, our resources are limited, but SCMA decided to release £30,000 from our financial reserves. We asked the Scottish Government to match fund this, and we're pleased that they also contributed £30,000 to establish the Joint Childminding Workforce Support Fund. To be clear, we knew this was still a very limited size of fund and would not help everyone, but we intentionally aimed to provide as many small grants as we could from this to support as many childminders as possible. This was just intended to offer some assistance. We knew it wouldn't solve larger financial pressures. Within 24 hours of opening the fund to applications, it was clear that the fund was going to be heavily oversubscribed. We didn't want childminders to continue to apply if they were unlikely to receive an award, so we agreed to pause the fund to new applications later that day. Since then, the team have worked really hard to consider the applications against agreed criteria. And in parallel to this, we've had constructive discussions with the Scottish Government about the level of demand and if there might be potential to provide additional funding for this fund and to support childminders. We were aware that the Scottish Government had also recently announced a new Transitional Support Fund to help childcare providers, and we've been awaiting detail of this to emerge. As detail came through, it became clear this was a targeted fund aimed at nurseries and other daycare of children settings. To be clear, daycare of children is a legal definition which does not include childminding. Childminding is defined separately. It was also clear that the Transitional Support Fund is based on the significant implications that their operating guidance would have on their running costs due to their size and scale. In contrast, many childminding settings have been open during lockdown or since Phase 1. And while our operating guidance may have resulted in some additional cost, the data would suggest that's been coming through. It's shown that our operating guidance has been having less of an additional financial impact on our settings than the operating guidance will have on daycare of children settings. Where childminders have confirmed they've been more financially exposed was in relation to the restrictions on blended care, which we've worked to influence. Also, there is evidence to show that it may take some time for many childminders to recover their business model after reopening. Unfortunately, some confusion arose as a result of the initial communication of the Transitional Support Fund to providers, with childminders receiving detail of this and wondering if they are eligible. To reiterate and be clear, we understand this is a targeted fund for nurseries and other daycare of children's services linked to their operating guidance. SCMA works closely with the Scottish Government, and since the Transitional Support Fund was announced, we have had constructive discussions about if additional funding might be available to support childminding. We're realistic and we're pragmatic. We know that public funds are limited and will not allow funding for everyone. Priority also needs to be given to those who are most in need. However, childminders should be assured that we are in ongoing discussion about this with the Scottish Government. The Scottish Government issued a COVID-19 update this morning, in which it noted that the Scottish Government are currently working with SCMA to agree further funding to support childminders, taking account of the demand for the Childminding Workforce Support Fund and the range of additional pressures which childminders may face as a result of the public health guidance. More information about that support will be published in the coming weeks. I'm unable to say anything more at this time, but please be assured that childminding has not been forgotten or overlooked. We are continuing to represent your needs and experiences in ongoing national discussions. It is very much our hope that we will receive further funding and that it might be possible to make more awards to support childminders. We will update you. Stay well.